Welcome to AR News. UK is falling behind on race to curb emissions. Wants review, the UK risk failing on its net zero plans unless it takes a new approach. To green targets, a review has warned. The report by the Tory MP says the government needs to be clearer and more consistent with its own climate policies. Delay on climate action also puts the UK at an economic disadvantage. The report says it called for 25 actions by 2025, including on onshore wind, eco-food labeling and phasing out gas boilers. Tory MP Chris Skidmore, who wrote the report, was convinced by former Prime Minister Liz Truss to review the government's delivery of net zero to ensure it was pro-growth and pro-business. Labour Shadow Climate Secretary E.D. Miliband said Minister lack of urgency and consistency was deprived our country of the economic opportunities climate action offers. And Green MP Carolina Lucis said the review itself shied away from calling for truly transformative measure to end our dependency on dirty, dangerous fossil fuel. The government said the UK was leading the world on tackling climate change and developing green jobs from the further. Net zero referred to the balance between the amount of greenhouse gas produced and the amount removed from the atmosphere. The UK has set a legal binding target of achieving net zero carbon emission by 2050 as a part of the global efforts to avert the worst effects of climate change. Mr. Skidmore is one of the greenest Tory MPs and signed the 2050 emission target into law in 2019. When he was an energy minister, he spent months meeting politicians, business leaders and energy experts across the country as a part of his evidence gathering process. Calling net zero the growth opportunity of the 21st century, Mr. Skidmore says the UK must move quickly and decisively to reap the economic benefits of achieving the target. We have heard from businesses that economic opportunities are being missed today because of weaknesses in the UK's investment environment, whether that be skills shortage or inconsistency policies. Commitment. Mr. Skidmore writes, moving quickly must include spending money. We know that investment in net zero today will be cheaper than delaying. As well as increasing the economic and climate benefits, the review, a leaked copy of which was seen by the BBC ahead of its publication on Friday, said a key demand from across the country was the need for clarity, certainty, consistency and continuity from government. On top of setting out long-term goals, it outlined 25 actions the government should take in each next 2 years. This includes, in his conclusion, Mr. Skidmore says the UK was in a net zero race and delaying decisions risking losing jobs, infrastructure and investment to other countries. The UK, he said, had reached a tipping point where the risk of not zero are now greater than the association risk of taking decision action on net zero now. This is why we need a new approach to our net zero strategy. Mr. Skidmore writes, one which identifies stability 10-year mission that can be established across sector, providing the vision and security for the stakeholders and investors. Sources in the renewable energy sectors told the BBC it was vital for the review recommendation to be taken towards forward, immediately adding the government needs to take the same kind of agile and empowered approach as was used for developing the coronavirus vaccine. Lord Sten, who published an influential review of the economic of climate change in 2006, welcomed Mr. Skidmore's report. He said he hoped the Prime Minister would respond to the review with the urgency and scale required to prevent this enormous economic opportunity from slipping through our fingers. This transition and the investment and innovation in embodies are at the core of the UK government story for the coming decades. A government spokesperson said Mr. Skidmore's report recognized the government's progress that he has been made to date in wrong towards legal binding net zero targets. Thank you.